What's up, people? This podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you want to get yourself a free audiobook and support the podcast at the same time, you can do that by going to audibletrial.com/Courtney Diamond. I'm currently listening to Choose Yourself by James Altucher. But no matter what you're looking to download, grab it for free by going to audibletrial.com/Courtney Diamond. I will link it up for you guys in the description. Now for this podcast, I sat down to chat with a guy who is a broker/realtor, pastor, and actor that opens up to us about his journey thus far and how he feels about finally making the big move to LA to give his all to what he really wants to do. I really enjoyed this one, and I think you guys will be right there with me. So with that, I hope you enjoy this conversation I had with my friend, Brent Roberts.
It seems to really have taken off quickly for you.
It has, but that's because I have over a decade in Las Vegas doing real estate. So I've been in real estate since like 2004.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So you have a lot of experience behind it.
Yeah. So I started in like property management and rental stuff with a wonderful mentor in Las Vegas, which is a whole nother story in and of itself. But we bounced around from like 2 or 3 brokerages, and then finally like let's just do it our way. So in 2007, we opened Realty Club Las Vegas because we're both huge Fight Club fans. So
yeah,
yeah,
like it.
Realty Club. You don't, but do talk about it because that's how it gets more.
Anyway, please share it with people.
Yeah, and 2007 was pretty much the crash, like the beginning of things going haywire in our economy and market and the housing. So we held on though. We lost a huge chunk of change, but man, through those low dips is where you really become a professional. Because like there's fair weather realtors and lenders who are like, oh man, that's awesome. I want to do that. That sounds like great money. But it's a huge endeavor and so much you have to know. And it just seems easy at this point because I've done it for so long.
Sure.
So
a lot of experience now.
Yeah.
It seems like one of those jobs that people jump into where they're like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'll be a real estate agent. And then they don't realize all of the other stuff that
goes
comes
along
with it.
Yeah. Yep. It's intense. And like every transaction is just like a different puzzle. And you have to just figure out each person's dynamic, their finances, what they want, where they want to be, and the compromises, and helping them, guide them through that entire process. And so I like really purposeful type interactions, and so obviously it's a huge one. I think there's no greater purchase someone's going to make in their life, pretty much, than a home.
Yeah,
and especially in San Diego, with the median price being like $530,000 at this point, or $500,000.
It's pure madness.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, like 1,200 square feet. So
I know.
it's nuts. And so when you've got people making that sizable of a purchase, the emotions, the involvement, the engagement, I love being like right there beside them and knowing I play that part of helping them along the way. So just closed one today, actually.
Oh, wonderful.
This young couple in Oceanside. They were so happy, so ecstatic, and just, there's moments of panic when you're just sitting there waiting, like, what's happening? What's going on? You're like, it's okay, breathe, I got this, it'll just be this, and...
You got to be a little bit of a therapist to go into it.
Totally.
Well, when it's that much money, and it's a big decision, everybody, I think, tries to second guess it.
Yes. So it's tough. It's tough to buy here for your average Joe.
Yeah. I wish there was, I'm from San Diego, so I wish there was some sort of discount just for having been born on this
The locals
land.
discount. I've been here. You're taking my land.
Are you trying to kick me out of my city? It's expensive here.
Just go put a sign up and claim it like in the old days. See how that works out.
This is mine. Probably won't work well, right? Right? When you try it.
Yeah.
It's so funny. So, but I know you mostly as a performer.
Yeah.
How long have you been acting? How did you get into it? I don't know any of these things about you.
I think kind of being an only child started because I grew up in Illinois, where it's super flat and there's super little to do sometimes. Farm boy at heart, which is hilarious to look at me and think that yeah, FFA, Future Farmers of America, and grew up with John Deere tractors and corn and soybeans. And
oh, wow.
Before I could drive a car, before I had a driver's license, I was driving huge machinery and semis down the road with corn and grain in the back, and
oh my god, like another life.
Shoveling corn and beans out of it. Yeah.
Whoa.
With dust. And look at these nails; they're incredibly pristine at this point. But yeah, I'm. It doesn't fit anymore. I got out of there at 17. But growing up an only child, I had a huge imagination and all this like farmland to roam around and give my parents reasons to drink because of the crazy things I've come up with. I'm like, I'm a princess. No, you're a prince, Brent. You're a prince. Right, I'm a prince. Whatever it be, just fun, creative stuff. And then jumped into, of course, by junior high and senior high, any kind of choir, madrigals, performing stuff. I did speech and debate, and I tried every sport out there, from junior high on. I got a record, I think, in the 6th grade for wrestling. It was the quickest pin. Like, I think it was 6 seconds. You shook hands in 6 seconds, and I was pinned on the ground. So it was just like this revelation, like, yep, this isn't for me.
Oh, you were pinned.
Yeah.
I thought it was you doing the
Nope,
pinning. My bad.
I wish that was the story, but it wasn't. And came in dead last in every track and field event. I think I was chunky. I was doing the 2 bowls of cereal after school with my mullet days.
Nice.
thing
We
growing up.
used to think that was health food, though.
Right. Cookie
Like,
crisp.
Yeah, eat your cereal in the morning. Healthy breakfast.
It's milk.
Yeah.
Calcium. But it catapulted me into acting and recognizing what my gifts were, being so apparent that you couldn't catch or throw a ball, that you needed to go into some other avenue.
Yeah. How did you end up here?
So I've got a huge faith conversion story in high school, and pretty much knew from sophomore, junior, senior year, I need to go into youth ministry. I need to be like my youth minister who had moved to town. It took me to all these huge conferences and camps that were all about like a different brand of faith and religion, I guess, that was fun, that was exciting, that was engaging. So it was like this new wave of Christianity, of youth ministry, especially in that time frame where the music was starting to get good and the preaching was fun and energetic. So you engaged, you wanted a relationship and a connection with God rather than feeling like you were under some guidelines or
Judgmental
rules.
finger.
Right. It was more than that. It was about the moment and having fun that really magnetized me to my faith, and I knew I wanted to go into ministry. So I left Central Illinois and went to a private Bible college in Joplin, Missouri.
I've never heard of that.
That's not a surprise.
Yeah.
So it's tiny. It's like the armpit of America, though, because it's on like Route 44 in the middle of everything. That's where all the tornadoes hit. Like, remember that?
Yeah,
A few
dang.
years back, and just wiped out a lot of Joplin. But yeah, I went to Bible college there and continued to do like creative art stuff. There I traveled with ministry teams to churches and would sing. I'd write a lot of my own material and perform that. And typical colleges have the, spring break, where it's like Daytona Beach or whatnot. Nope, at private Bible college, we had week of evangelism. So
It's almost the same.
yeah, drop
But
the
it's
flask,
not.
grab your Bible, and we're coming your way. But I went to Jamaica, this Indian reservation, just traveling around, and I got the opportunity to go to Africa for a summer in between my schooling. And I ended up getting an opportunity to intern in youth ministry in North Carolina, and then another opportunity arose in '99 to Vegas at this mega church. And I'm like, yeah. So I was doing programming for junior high and senior high. The junior high was like 300-something kids. The senior high was like 500-something kids. And so I was doing all the creative elements from lighting cues to sound. And I mean, their mixing board for just the junior high and senior high ministries was like the cost of 2 new Beamers at the time. So
Oh, wow, that a legit setup.
church was loaded. We moved into the new like $30-40 million campus when I was there
Okay.
in Las Vegas. And my host family was my really, really close friend Sandra, who was in property management and real estate. Okay. So after the youth ministry in Las Vegas, I went back for my senior year of college, and I traveled doing like a traveling drama ministry all over the States. So, and it was called the Road Ministries. And so instead of like having any kind of speaker or preaching, we would use sketch to reach these kids and just show them, hey, here's another way to think about this. Or,
Good way to update it. And so that led you here.
Yes. So I spent like 2.5 years touring around with the road, and then kind of just by default and other factors of my life ended up falling into real estate. So did real estate for several years, opened that brokerage, and I'm like, man, I miss performing. I miss doing different ministries and functions that I did growing up. So I started auditioning for everything, for this, for that, the other, and booked a gig as a cruise director. And I was a cruise director for a good 1.5 years. I saw a lot of Alaska.
Oh.
Every week for like 4 months, 8 months, more like it.
Nice.
It's gorgeous. And all of the Caribbean. Went to the Caribbean islands, and it was wild times.
I bet. I hear some
Yeah.
stories about cruises.
Yes, they're all true.
You're like every last one of them. So that's interesting. So you have all of the real estate stuff. You have the ministry.
Yeah.
And then you have the performing situation going.
Yeah.
And you were saying before we started recording, you have a very good setup for yourself.
At this
right?
point, yeah.
You have a good setup, but you are making big changes right now. So what is the catalyst for this change, considering it seems like you have a good setup right now? You are still, you're acting right now, right?
Yeah, like I've just had some pretty good gigs already in 2018, in a good trailer and a couple commercial things. And it really varies what an actor can do across the board. Many people are like, well, what movie have you been in?
Right.
Your typical actor who makes it as an actor is doing voiceover stuff. They're doing print work. They're doing small commercial things here and there, local commercials. So I've been hitting a circuit in San Diego a bit, and I do musical theater, so like stage stuff as well as film stuff. And I really want to try to branch more into film and television. And so I think LA is where you need to do that.
That's what we hear. So you're making the jump.
I am. I'm going to try to do the dual residency in LA and here in San Diego to try to bounce back and forth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With my focus more in LA at this point in time.
Yeah, and you've never tried living in LA?
No,
Until
I
this
haven't.
point.
I've not been attracted whatsoever.
Yeah, me neither.
To the notion of, I don't think many people are. And then you hear the nightmare stories of people who left there and like, well, yeah, you do spend a lot of time in your car. Mm-hmm. You just adjust. You find something worth the exchange of having freedom to spending that much time in your car, and you find things to do when you're stuck in the drive. But I'm going to find if it's worth that exchange for me.
Absolutely.
Got to take that leap, I think, for whatever you're called to or whatever you want in life.
I fully get that. That's the first thing people tell me because I went to film school. And
you did?
Yeah, I have a screenwriting degree.
I did not know this.
Yeah. So, technically, you're supposed to move directly to LA. Right after that. Went to Chapman in Orange County.
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of my
friends.
Isn't
that a beautiful campus?
Beautiful campus, private university. Mm-hmm. Lived on campus all 4 years. Went up to LA a lot during that time. And it's kind of weird because sometimes you meet people that I always say they seem like walking resumes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yep.
And it can be difficult to find people to really connect with because it seems like people are meeting people all the time just for schmoozing and connection. And you're not sure whether somebody's trying to get to know you for that or because you're actually wanting friends.
A stepping stone. Yeah. Or yeah.
So that's the tricky part, aside from, the traffic.
Yeah.
I did PA work and stuff up there for a bit, too, out of college. So.
What was your initial reaction? LA was...
overwhelming. I was always used to, small environments, small schools and things like that, even though I'm from a large city, obviously. Yeah. But it was a little bit overwhelming. Everybody's there doing the same thing. And I think it helps to have a very strong sense of self when you go up there. It's almost like I could do it now much better than I think I would have done it had I tried to do that at 21 when I graduated college.
You would have been Brittany. A screenwriting Brittany. You molded into what they want you to be. Dance.
Yeah, and I don't know. I wouldn't but I was much more timid at the time. And, for my personality and who I was, I think that would have been a more difficult struggle. And it seems like sometimes it has made sense for the people that I know who've moved to LA a little bit later than the ones that did the initial move right out of college. Some of them were successful, and then some of them had a really, really difficult time because they didn't quite know who they wanted to be, and it was very tricky for them.
Right. And I think that takes a bit of honesty with the career in and of itself of I have to prepare in the next couple weeks of okay, where do I fit? What shows could I honestly get a part in based on my looks, since I'm going to walk into a casting room, an audition, and there's going to be sometimes minimum 50 of me, except better looking and with abs. And
so many abs everywhere.
Yeah. Just ab city. Everybody's 8% body fat. I got to work on that. No.
That's just very strange when you become a little bit deadened to abs. You're so used to seeing abs that you're like, oh, abs.
Yeah, great. You got abs. Those. What else you got?
When you live in these cities,
Seriously.
You see them all the time. They're very normal.
Dude, I went to St. Louis and I was walking around a hospital for a week because my dad was in there. He's all good now. But I was just eyeballing wall to wall. I'm like, my God, the Midwest really is a different shape than the West Coast.
Yeah,
I just kind of forget what gravy looks like in under skin. I look at so much of life as that exchange that you just talked about. Your time is the biggest commodity you have. Oh. And so what I'm exchanging that commodity for, and sometimes I need raw honesty with that. We're like, well, you just exchanged 5 hours of Netflix, so really what are you complaining about when you have to exchange?
Definitely.
But I don't want to spend my whole life in the gym. I don't want to spend 5 years in Los Angeles after 5 years still waiting for a one-line audition.
Right.
So I'm going to get there. I'm going to hit it as hard as I possibly can, and I know thousands of people say this, but if it doesn't work, it's okay. But I'm going in with the mindset of you better clear a path for me because here I come. And with that success mentality to see what I can land and how far I can push it, and as well to collaborate with people. And I think what you said earlier about meeting LA people, that's a little bit of a fear of mine, of finding authentic connection. Because I think, as you know, I'm way too transparent too quickly. But I find I find beauty in that like when I'm honest with people about my story, it gives them the freedom to be honest as well. And
I say that all the time. I completely agree.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you always been like that, or is that something that you've worked into?
No. I think it took quite a while, like it does for a lot of people.
For me.
And so
Absolutely.
yeah.
I've not always been a very open person.
And it's like we have to go through these painful processes sometimes to recognize, damn it, I wish I would have just been honest with myself like 5 years ago and with my family and with my friends or whatever it be, to come to that place of acceptance of whatever your lot in life is. Like even looks, you know what I mean? Getting ready to go to LA where so much is cast sometimes based on both the right look, the right talent. This is my face. This is my voice. This is what I've got, you know, bare bones. Here I am. Take it or leave it. If not, I know there's another door for me to walk through. So give me that answer.
Right. It's all about finding. You're like, I got very little time to waste on you if you don't have something to say to me. No, but it makes sense, though. It makes sense because I agree with you on the sense of time is the most important commodity. And I become more and more aware of that for some reason as the days pass. And I'm like, what do I really want to be doing?
And we do that same thing with relationships. And I just had that notion of like, man, sometimes you will wait for someone to give you the right answer if you're enough for them, if they accept you. Or you accept them to figure it out. It's like that aspect takes time. It takes trust and the risk of being vulnerable with someone like, okay, here's everything I got. Do you want that? No, you don't. Yeah. Okay, next. Gonna
thanks.
Keep swiping.
That's where the sense of self comes in, right?
Yeah.
So if you have gotten to a point, and I think this very much takes work, where you are very comfortable with yourself and what you're bringing to the table, and you don't rely on somebody else to tell you whether you're truly good enough.
Right.
That's really what it's about, right?
Yeah.
If you are handing that to somebody else, that's when you get in trouble because you have to go through these kind of dark places if it doesn't turn out the way that you want it to.
Very much so. And, you know, the job of an actor is essentially auditioning. My job is to audition. And then, of course, when you book something, to be prepared to do what you do as an actor. But the job is getting work. So it's going in every door and leaving, not knowing whether or not you booked. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. But hearing no on a repeat basis. Nope, not what we're looking for. Nope, not enough. Nope, not, you know what I mean? That you have to have that kind of thick skin. But in parallel, essentially in life, we're auditioning every day. Almost every transaction we have with someone, with new friendships, with dating, with getting a job, whatever it be, that it's all adjusting to knowing a no over here means there's a yes out there somewhere, and you just keep pressing into it. There's this cheesy saying that I picked up in real estate from some guru or something like that, but it stuck with me. It can be a little acronym or something, but it's some will, some won't, so what? Next. That either way, you know, if you're like, yes, I got it, and you hold on to that one trophy or that one moment for all your life, okay, good for you. That was 3 years ago. You're still bragging about that. Talk about that. Congratulations. Your team made it to state. Yep. You're no longer in high school. Okay. But whether it's trophy or failure, either way, some will, some won't. So what? Next. Awesome. Celebrate it. Move on to the next. Oh, that hurt. Okay. Move on to the next open door just to keep going. And man, sometimes that is the hardest part because it's just easy to sit your ass down on the couch and be like,
yeah, it is.
Can all the good things just fall in my lap?
I'm just going to wait
knock
here
on my
patiently,
door,
and they'll show up if I think real happy thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And the mentality is important too, but you have to like create something. You have to start somewhere and expect that there will be hiccups, and it's not always going to go what you want, but it's like you have to get out there and put yourself out there in those situations. And there's something to be said also for giving all of yourself to it. Like you're saying, you're going to go up there and just, I'm going to hit it hard,
right,
and put all my effort into it. And I can say that I fully went in there and I tried, because I think from what it sounds like from people that are in their old age, and they talk about the worst part is the regret of the things that they wish they'd done.
Right.
And they're like, this whole experience went so fast.
Yeah.
And what did I do? What did I do with those 10 years?
Right.
That I was super unhappy. Why did I feel like I was trapped there?
Held back, stuck.
By yourself most of the time, though.
Yeah. It's so good to ask those questions of what is keeping me from ... What is truly in the way? What is the fear? What's the worst outcome that could happen if I went for this dream? Or I asked for that phone number? Or whatever. And really, it's not that scary when you play the tape through. of the majority of our fears.
Yeah.
Of, obviously there's some, picking up a rattlesnake or something, but
Don't do that.
there's not a lot of that. There's not a lot of things out there that are
that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially with the so what type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've developed in my head an oh well. That's what I kind of say. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like if it doesn't work, well, that one wasn't meant to happen. Doesn't mean it's never supposed to happen if it's especially like some dream that you're pushing for.
Right.
It's like, I don't know where there's a mentality of like one quote unquote failure means that it will never happen and that's where you stop and you don't continue to try. I think that happens to people sometimes. They hit the one initial like bummer.
Yep.
And then shut down and then go, oh, I guess it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but you didn't try again or you didn't try to get better. Or what did you learn from the...
Right. I think that's key because I think like you have to go in with some formulated expectations and vision toward what are you doing here? What do you want? But along the journey, knowing those expectations could get blown out of the water and mean something totally different of what your journey was in retrospect. That you're like, wow, okay, I didn't get the initial goal I set out for, but look at this. Look what I did get. And being happy in that exchange rate that, of course, I'm going in with one vision of like, oh, I'm going to get there. This is going to book. This is going to land. But I'm longing for just like good connection, whether that be to the right casting director, to good
Huge.
friends, to people who want to write and collaborate something, or someone who's just going to drop into my life and amaze me in a way no one else has
Yep.
so far.
I feel like those people always happen by surprise anyway.
Right.
It's never when I'm expecting them to show up or when I feel ready for them.
Right. Or you're waiting for it, longing for it, aching.
Yeah, it seems like I do the best if I'm just doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
And some people kind of are in my path all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. And they're on the same path I am somehow. And it makes sense.
Yes.
In that particular way.
It's exactly that. It's people out there doing something with your life, with your talent, or if you don't feel like you have talent, whatever it is you like to do. If you don't know what you like to do, just try everything. Try like 5 or 6 Groupons.
Very convenient.
Yeah.
Cheap.
And you meet other people in the midst of those experiences, and it's the polar opposite of just sitting on the couch, just watching TV, watching life happen as you scroll through everybody else's feed or a page that you feel like the FOMO, the fear of missing out on so much, like, oh God, must be nice. They're
It's
doing
like, well,
this.
go.
Yeah. Do something of your own. And
And then post about it. And then that's you.
yeah,
No.
and I'm preaching to myself here, like that whole lesson, because it's a repeat
Yeah.
memory. And that so what sometimes of pain or rejection or getting out of those valleys, they take different lengths of time. And that's okay to process that pain. It's okay to process that hurt or what happened and figuring it out to piece yourself back together for the next go around.
Yep.
But
I feel like a lot of times somewhere ingrained in the society is this thing of feeling emotion and being bummed out and hitting those like down spirals for a second. That's seen as like weakness and you shouldn't show that.
Right.
And you should try to avoid it and figure out how to numb it
yeah,
and shut it down when really the best process is go through it. You got to feel it you do have to feel
Right.
it for a second
yeah,
and then let it move past you. And I think the more you do that, I think the first time you do it, it takes a really long time. And then the more you kind of hit these low points, I think you kind of come out of them faster.
yeah, definitely. Like getting to some honesty. The failures in my life, I think, again, it came from not being completely honest with who I am and what I want. So, growing up in that Midwest area where there's manly men, you know what I mean? These are blue-collar workers. These are Vietnam vets like my stepfather. There's expectations of what it means to be a man. And people who are LGBT know. They have known for a long, long time who they are. It takes a minute to actualize that, and even probably more in whatever context someone grew up, the safety, first of all, and then just the internal instinct. You know you're different. You know that once you pronounce this or announce this, that it's like difference happens. And so I knew from a young age that, one of these kids is not like the other. But yeah, I knew. And I knew I had to hide it well. I knew I had to work on my posture, work on the way I walked, work on the tone of my voice, work on everything so I was undetectable.
You're just trying to fit in.
Correct. Because getting called out, getting noticed for being gay was awful. And that's like a factual, actual thing from anybody growing up gay is being different and whether it be you're not a man, man's man, or just a demonized perception of the whole LGBT community from the conservative church, essentially, that I was a part of. So I had that weird dichotomy of this is me, and yet my faith's so real to me. This is me as well. What do I do with this conundrum? I'm both, which neither community is accepting of either. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, I hidden that. Now my faith was true and genuine in the things that I was doing. I was loving, being in ministry and able to express something I believe in so wholeheartedly through the avenue of drama and touring around. But my face was out there in front of thousands. And so there was this elevated pedestal of my example and the life that I led, that when it came time to finally address, like, dude, this is not going away. You're not going to marry a girl, have a family, and think that that's okay. I could not take that risk of damaging, destroying another someone or kids like that. So at like the peak of my ministry, things just kind of started falling apart. And I told my good friend Sandy, I'm gay and I don't think it's a sin. I don't think it's something that's going away. I need to address it this way. And it took quite a while. I shut everything down with my ministry and with no one to talk to, with no one to be honest with in the conservative church, because as soon as you did, it's like, okay, we need to pray for you. We need to figure you out. Because just by saying...
They just start to try to fix you.
Yeah, because you're broken.
You're broken, yeah.
Yeah, just by saying you're attracted to the same sex, you're sinful. Even though it's not an action, just like you saying I'm attracted to men, there's nothing wrong about that action.
Yeah.
That's still, to this day, a lot of the way the church looks at it. So I had no one to talk to. You can't say those things in a safe place where you still get to hold on to the rest of your character and a whole life and legacy built on things done, people loved, and service. It's kind of a wash away, which is so, so sad, because that's good fruit of a life well lived, or someone who truly just loves God and loves people. And so I hid, and the way I hid was through the gay bar scene. And there was a few years of just rough living that I had to call bookings and say, I can't come to your church, I can't come to your conference, because I'm just not the same man on stage that I am currently living.
Oh.
And I wouldn't want to hurt anybody with that. And that's kind of where drugs came in the picture. That's where a lot more heavy drinking came in the picture. I'd freaking make up an alias when I would go out. I'd call myself Tyler, because, of course, Tyler Durden Fight Club.
There you go. It all comes around.
Yeah. And make stuff up so I wouldn't be found out. And it was just a sickening pull back and forth of not being out and honest. And finally, like coming out and letting those two worlds meet was a lot of repair of years of believing one way, of hating myself, hating something I could not change. And through much prayer as well, being like, God, if you can change this, change me. And it wasn't. It didn't. Still very easily there, you know? There was no button to push, and that is kind of how I default fell into all those other things, and then slowly but surely started to creep back to be like, am I okay here? Am I okay to still be myself as someone who wants to make a difference in other people's lives and encourage good choices and in people to love God? And found my way back, and so that got reconciled. But then all along the way, something else had latched into me, and that was drinking, a drinking problem that I just could not escape. And so Vegas, towards the tail end, was racked with a few poor choices and a couple DUIs. So I went out, took the cruise director gig, and I was prepared to spend like a year at sea to avoid telling people I'd gone through that, the embarrassment of that, and a real struggle. Like, okay, I'm just going to try 2 beers. I'm going to be 2 beers Brent. And if I can't do that, all right, I got a problem.
Yeah.
But never willing to admit that I couldn't stop.
Right.
Like if you and I were at dinner and you didn't finish your glass of wine, like leaving dinner, I would grab your wine glass and finish it before we left. It would be unheard of to me. Like who doesn't finish their glass of wine? Yeah. And it would always just be more about the drinks than the dinner and the conversation. There was nothing seemingly as important once I started drinking than the drink. It became this all-consuming thing, and absolutely like something I was allergic to. That maybe not every time I drank, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to get this jerk coming out, or this like hyped up crazy guy, like, oh, okay, tone it down, just on speed, like version of me, and trouble. Yeah. So it like siphoned everything good out of my life that I was so capable of building and having. So the brokerage and owning nice cars, and I was in escrow like 3 or 4 times to buy a property, and then I would just make these huge mistakes financially in gambling and with drunkenness, and it was like a vacuum that I would stick into my soul or my bank account or every part of my life, and it would just pull out the good. So I was out at sea as a cruise director, and my reputation had just become like, oh, geez, here he comes. It started great. I was a newer cruise director doing so well with my personality, and it felt like such a perfect fit of what a dream job, man.
Yeah.
Like being out there and writing my name in the sand, getting
Yeah,
paid for that, and
definitely.
seeing these beautiful destinations and connecting with people. It was awesome to meet people from all over the world. And I said, this last contract, this next one is going to be my sober contract. And man, if I can't do it, I think I need help. Try something different. Starting to get that true place of like, okay, I'm really going to identify that this is something that's a problem. When there was an obvious list, huge list of like bad things that happen when you put alcohol in here.
Right.
But just like there's this grit and determination of like, no, I don't have a problem. No problem here. But no,
It's
I
hard
made
to
it
look at ourselves like that
totally with anything.
with anything.
And I made it like 3 weeks. And I had this thing written on my cruise director board, like 1 drink and you lose everything. No drinks and the world is yours. And it wasn't but, 3 weeks I had to erase that. And it was like 3.5 weeks that I missed the huge responsibility of waking up to let all the guests know that the cruise was over. Thanks for sailing with us.
Yeah.
And calling them off by name. And got woke up by security at like 10:30 or 11 and a blood alcohol test that said, you're fired.
Oh, wow.
So with the captain and other heads of departments, they let me off the ship that I was supposed to be on for 4 months. So I stood next to that ship with my bags, and I'm like, this is it. This is enough. And I made the choice to enter into a rehab, and that was here in San Diego
Oh, wow.
over 4.5 years ago.
That's amazing.
And thus my beginning in San Diego.
Whoa.
And like since then, I mean, obviously I own my own brokerage and company
Yeah.
now. I just got new wheels. I've got pretty good nest egg in the bank to take to LA, and free, happy, and to be so honest and transparent with any part of that journey. Like, yeah, I'm a Christ follower. Yeah, I'm gay. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm 4.5 years sober. And no matter what aspect of my life it is, I'm finding that the honesty and revelation, it builds that trust with people to have real connections.
It completely does. People are so drawn to it these days because it feels like it's getting a little bit more scarce. And there's something about when you have come to this point where you go, vulnerability is not weak, and I'm okay with just telling you who I am. And if you don't like it, oh well.
Right.
I think when we're not being ourselves, we're not being honest with ourselves, we don't have anyone else to be honest with, to feel like we're sharing ourselves. We're just not liberated. And that's when we go to these numbing behaviors, or you get unhealthy. You can feel it. There's like a kind of a sadness or an anger. There's anger that comes out. It's like your psyche is rebelling because you're not allowing it to be who it's supposed to be. And it's all based in that like vulnerability and shame. And when you're honest, you're releasing shame. I was reading a book and it was basically saying that like shame can't exist when it's followed with honesty.
Yeah.
It's the best way to make it go away.
And the funny thing is, it's like no matter what flies out of your mouth, what flies out of your head that you did, that you thought, someone else around you, when you reveal that type of transparency, will put their hand up and be like,
oh, yeah,
me too. Yep.
I can't believe you did that too.
And the recognition that if it's just one other person, you're like, thank God I found someone else who does this or thinks that, or I'm not crazy, or I'm not the only crazy one. I found that especially in AA. Like that's what the beauty of the meetings in those rooms are, is that people from all walks of life have been affected by this allergy, this disease, essentially, that has destroyed families and lives, and to learn from their scars, and then to recognize, man, that is my story, and I feel like if there were more of that type of connection with everything, I think in this day and age of Instagram and watching so many motivational people and the gym people especially, team no days off, or like, really?
Yeah.
To hear some beautiful jacked up person say, there are days I feel butt ugly, or there are days I do not want to go to the gym. There are days I'm intimidated to go to the gym. There are days no one talks to me, that I feel like an 80-year-old widow eating alone. No matter what it is, to have those kind of revelations so that other people don't feel alone, less and less isolation. And
Yeah.
I think there'd be less and less anger, resentment, hostility, and indifference.
It's the problem of feeling like you're supposed to look like you're perfect and like you've got everything together, which is definitely, blown up in the social media situation that we have. It's
Right.
like everybody look like you're good.
Right.
And there's a lot of people, obviously, that are more honest and they try to represent that side of it. But I think people get caught up in the sense that I'm supposed to seem like I've got all of this figured out and I've got all of this together. And so
Yeah.
when you realize, it's kind of like anytime something bad happens, I always say quote unquote bad, because sometimes I think the bad things that happen to us aren't necessarily bad in the long run. And you go, oh, I needed that to happen so that I could make a change
Right.
and do this other thing. You getting kicked off that ship, it seems like a bad thing, but
Right.
yet that was your catalyst.
Saved my life.
Yeah. To start the new chapter of your life
Right.
and to get where you are today. And if that had never happened, then
Yeah.
where would you be?
Exactly. And it's weird when you look back at some things like that. Yeah, I probably would be dead or in jail or in the hospital. It just was taking me down to a place so low. And man, it was a rough start here, starting over. Like I worked at 24 Hour Fitness as a membership counselor, like making $10 an hour.
Nice.
Hated
I worked at
life.
24 Hour Fitness too.
Did you?
Front desk.
Okay. And those towel runs, man. Oh,
In Hillcrest.
terrible.
So it was a waste for
honey.
me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was a waste. I was like, you applied and they just placed you in one.
Yeah.
You didn't get to pick which one. And I was like, oh,
Man,
this is going to do nothing
You
for
drew
me.
the wrong straw, girl.
I wasn't there
That's
very long.
funny.
Yeah.
We got that in common. What else? And I mean, I was here for my first year without a driver's license. I got my California real estate license before I got my driver's license back. So I was riding the bus all over. And then eventually, obviously, it's kind of important for a realtor to have a car and a driver's license
gonna
to
say,
show clients. How do you, you don't.
Just getting around.
Yeah.
That's mostly what your job is.
Yep. So in basically from 2015 till now is how I made it all happen. Just connecting with the right people to those properties, to immense freedom with that, and a lot of struggle and forward momentum. I cashed in my life insurance policy to survive at one point.
Yeah. Do what
Started
you got to
from
do.
the bottom, now we're here. My rap career hasn't really taken off yet, but
One day. I keep believing. Keep believing. It's crazy too, though, when you become honest about who you are and you start expressing that, no matter what, you draw the right people to you.
right.
Especially, this is what I was saying too, people going to LA and they know who they are, and you're going in with a sense of confidence, and you know who you are, and you have your story, and you're honest,
Yeah.
and you know what you want. Mm-hmm. If you exude that, it's like the right people find you,
Correct.
rather than coming in with a false self and attracting all the wrong types of people who don't know who you are.
That shit'll be found out. Whoever you're faking, masquerading, no matter kind of what happens, we've got to live in this way that someday the curtain can be drawn back on this. And if I'm not okay with talking about doing this action, thinking these thoughts, browsing this website, whatever it is, you might want to consider cutting it out of your life. Because moving on to transparency, when you, I think, mesh with someone, there's nothing as beautiful as knowing anything I got is yours. Handing your phone to someone and be like,
Nothing scary on here.
nothing to hide. Because you know everything. I'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
Is a liberating place to be. And I can't imagine for like liars, habitual liars who
It's got to be really painful.
really, really painful of like
Right?
remembering what they lied about, how they lied about it, and keep it going. And how long does a masquerade go until you just crash and have to run from it?
Think about how much energy it takes.
Seriously.
How much energy does it take?
To keep up a facade.
Nobody can do it forever. You can't. At some point,
Light will shine on that lie.
the mask falls off.
Right.
Or it slips.
Yep.
And people will see it. And it's like when those people, all of a sudden,
Wait
somebody
a
you thought
minute.
was one way and you catch them and you're like, oh, that was a little out of character.
Yeah.
And it's like, was it?
Yeah.
Or is that just not what they show you most of the time?
Right. And how much better to go into friendships or relationships and be like, yep, this is something from my life and it sucks. And I did it and it was horrible. And I'm sorry. And I
Yeah.
will try my hardest not to do it again.
Yeah. Well, that's how you get people to trust you too. And
yeah.
you develop trust with other people. If somebody's very open with you, you feel like you can trust them because this person, I know who to expect. I know who's showing up. Whereas people that seem a little closed off, they can pull 180s on you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden be some person you're like, who, what?
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? What is that? I've
Yeah.
never seen that. And so there's something with people that are just very out there and honest, and they'll talk about whatever you want. You bring up any sort of topic, and they're just like, yeah, sure. Yeah, we can talk about that. You know you can trust them.
Yeah.
And it's very, God, it's like relaxing.
It's a relief, yeah. And I'm hoping to find that, out there.
They're out
kind
there.
of the reward, the fruit of being honest.
It's great with you going up there, though, too, just putting yourself in the environment, because it's so much about who you know and so much about connections. Just being out there and meeting somebody. You could meet somebody in a coffee shop. You could meet somebody out and about and make friends.
Right.
And you never know where that can lead sometimes.
Yep.
Who will introduce you to what, just by putting yourself directly in it.
Yeah. And I want to do some traveling this year.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
Going to see some nature? City traveling?
I think so. I just took a recent trip to Joshua Tree.
I've never been.
It's beautiful. It's like 3 hours away. And I kind of just drove through and quickly did a hike on my way to Palm Springs, and never been there either. It was nice.
We used to go to the Ritz-Carlton in Palm Springs. That was my childhood vacation every year.
Nice.
We literally would never leave the hotel. It's hilarious. I'd never seen the actual city.
Just the Ritz.
Just the Ritz.
They're like, Courtney, do not look out the window. Face down.
That was the special trip of the year.
Nice.
Every year. That's so funny. So yeah, I don't know anything about the city itself, but it was great. I see a lot of people vacationing there.
And I think I want to go to Machu Picchu. Because everybody else has got a picture in front
Put
of it.
Put it on your dating profile.
Oh, exactly.
Everyone
every
has one.
third person you swipe on, I swear, Machu Picchu or potato chip. We get it, people.
I feel very untraveled. When I scroll through those things, I'm like, okay, well, I haven't been to all these hot spots that you guys are posting
I've been to El
out.
Cajon.
Yeah. Does that count? No.
Yeah. So, and there's another layer of honesty that I came out of a relationship at the end of 2017, like Splitsville.
Oh.
And it's something I posted honestly about that.
And that's the last time I saw you. Christmas.
Yeah.
Around Christmas, right?
Yeah. So shortly after Christmas.
Oh, goodness.
Like before New Year's. And it's another layer of honesty to be in that place again and to think about traveling alone, that it's scary, that it's like, oh, I don't want to go alone. What's worse? Not going or going alone? My God, there's such beauty in just going on your own. You're free. No one else's agenda, no one else's budget, no one else's time clock. It's you and whatever you want to do and explore. And you can always bump into another group of people and check things out. No places to come back to. So I'm in that place of honesty of like, okay, I'm here at my age and single again and focusing on what I want, where I want to go, instead of devoting so much time to thumbing through the available options and waiting a lot. You know what I mean? We can easily fall into that trap. That it's,
I do know that, like, yes.
Oh, it's so vacuous until you delete those apps. And
yes, they are an interesting situation. They feel time consuming. I don't currently have time for those kind of things.
Right.
Because, like I said, I've given myself a lot of projects now to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But
and it's funny how then you care less about that for the moment anyway.
For the moment, I'm like, I got to throw my energy someplace else right now.
Right.
And eventually, I think it'll happen when it happens.
Yeah.
And when it makes sense.
The Notebook 3 will come to fruition in our lives. Why can't we both just be reaching for the same like venti latte, you know?
That's how it'll happen. That'll be the magic moment.
Right.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but there's a beauty to doing things on your own.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely beauty to that. And I've gotten very comfortable with that. And I think it's scary for a lot of people to think of doing stuff by themselves.
Right.
People have a strange feeling of somebody's judging you. You ever notice that?
Definitely.
Like, oh, I'm out here by myself. Everybody's looking at me and they think I'm alone and lonely and nobody likes me. I'm like, nobody is thinking.
Giving a rip about me
Nobody's
eating my
thinking about
Chipotle
you.
bowl.
Nobody's thinking
myself.
about you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with doing that stuff. And then sometimes it's almost like you were saying, again, before we started recording, that you were like thinking about these, like, well, who am I? What am I going to do? All these things. Sometimes the best way to think about those things is to be on your own so you can really hear yourself.
Correct.
It takes time, I think, to sift through those questions and to go have experiences and just being in new places, like just putting yourself in some environment that's not familiar is a complete shift in your mindset. It opens up, like, I don't know, different thought patterns or I just become very introspective.
Yeah.
If I'm by myself and especially out in like nature.
Totally. That was Joshua Tree for me, as I just hiked several things on my own, put my earbuds, listened to some good music, and then got to watch the sunset. And, and I went to this peak where there's, of course, a lot of other people and couples, and I was like, oh, screw you.
I know.
But But it's happy for them,
Yeah.
to have that cool moment for them. But I was with myself, and how beautiful that I got to be there and take in that gorgeous sunset, looking at the Salton Sea and the San Andreas Fault and over this mountain, this gorgeous sunset. I drove off exhausted, sun beat, and just so thankful for the day. And that I got to go see it, and that I took a minute with myself to break away and do that exact thing, be quiet. There's a lot of noise sometimes.
There's a ton of noise, and you don't realize how noisy it is until you find silence again.
Yeah.
Do you meditate at all?
Mm-mm.
You might enjoy it.
I need to.
You might enjoy it.
Yeah, I used to. And it's funny because every time I do, you stop and pause to get quiet, and it's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable, and I mean, it's a little bit of torture every now and again.
Yeah.
Every now and again, if I'm in a weird headspace and I have to force myself to sit with myself, and you look at those things that are bothering you or that are worrying you or that you'd rather not think about, it can be uncomfortable. And yet somehow, if you sit there long enough, and not a crazy amount of time, but usually, I do like max 20 minutes. I don't do anything crazy. But somewhere, I feel like in those last 10 minutes, it's like you hit kind of a peaceful place where you come to terms, at least, with feeling what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And you say, if this is what's going on and this is making me uncomfortable, I think my brain shifts to just, okay, well, what do we do to get out of that? There it is. Cool. Let's look at it. It's there. It's fine. Can we do anything about that?
I like this.
Yeah. Rather than just kind of bumming out or pushing it away.
Right. It's got to get dealt with.
Yeah. Just look at it.
One way or another, yeah. I think I'll try that. Maybe I'll try that on my initial days in this whole LA adventure.
Well, you have a lot of apps to choose from that will help you.
Okay.
Have you seen those? There's a
meditation apps, huh?
Meditation apps. So there's one called Headspace. They have some free ones, and then you have to pay eventually. Okay. The guy who does the voiceover for it, same man. So it's kind of nice because you get this journey with all one voice.
Is
lovely British.
Oh, a Brit. Huh?
Lovely British voice in your ears. Very relaxing. And then there's another one that I use called Insight Timer, which is more like you can create your own custom meditation, set a timer, choose whether you want to hear rain or something else in the background, white noise or silence. Gotcha. It'll just do bells for you if you want, and then a lot of guided ones. Nice to choose from as well.
Is there an LA traffic option?
LA traffic option, yeah. You got to listen to podcasts and audiobooks.
I know. You're
going to cruise through those things.
That's what I was saying about the thing about LA that I think everybody hates is thinking about being stuck like that. But there's so many things I could be doing, like have an hour-long phone call with a friend back home or something. And
that's a great way to use the time.
Yeah.
Devote that to speaking to somebody and reaching out to talk to somebody that maybe you don't talk to very often. That's very cool.
People don't want to do that anymore these days. In business.
Your phone rings and you get terrified.
Right. You're like, oh.
Why are they calling?
You'll maybe listen to the voicemail.
Maybe.
Text them. What'd you need? I left you a voicemail. No, I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, don't listen. I'm scared.
Come on. I love, I don't know. I'm totally old school, but I love face-to-face connections with people.
Yes.
And then the FaceTime and then the voice-to-voice and then misinterpreting each other's texts. And
that's the problem. So I try to be very emoji heavy sometimes just to make sure, because I'm a little bit sarcastic. So every now and again I'll type something and I go, they might not get that. Let me throw a little grin or a wink on it. Yeah, let's be clear. Okay. Yeah. Let's be clear about it.
And I'll plan on listening to your podcast in there. What are some of your favorite podcasts other than your own?
I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Okay. I've heard about that.
Remember Joe Rogan? It's massively popular.
Interesting.
And what's cool about his is he talks to all different kinds of people.
Okay.
From super conservative people to people that are heavily liberal to comedians to scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He has on all different kinds of people. Okay. So it's really interesting to be able to kind of jump in on any conversation. They're really long form. They're around 3 hours, most of them. Oh, wow. So, and what's cool, what he says about that is he likes long form because the longer you sit down and talk to somebody,
the more you get.
Because sometimes people are uncomfortable, they're in front of a microphone, it's weird.
Yeah.
But the longer you're sitting here and the longer you chat and you're developing a rapport, that's when you can really see who somebody is and you start to get to the bones of it. So that's the beauty of the long form ones, if you're just looking for real conversation. I like Russell Brand's podcast.
I've been listening to Serial a little bit. It's all about this whole murder investigation from 16 years ago, and
people love the murder ones. I love a good murder show. I watch the shows a lot.
And I listened to what happened to Richard Simmons.
Yeah, I listen to that one too. Tim Ferriss, I listen to. There's a Duncan Trussell one that's pretty crazy. Bill Burr, it's a comedy podcast.
Right on.
There's so much content, it's overwhelming. Stuff you should know, which is like every episode is just a random topic.
Okay.
Like stuff you should know about orchids, stuff you should know about prison, stuff
That's
you
fun.
should know about. So it's just you kind of pick up random tidbits and just makes you feel well-rounded.
That's exactly what I need to be doing in the car when I'm just stuck.
A really good use of time. I drive up to LA a lot, and people are always like, "Oh, is that awful? Is that whatever?" And I'm like, "No. One, you choose a good time to drive up there,
Right?
So it doesn't take 5 hours, which has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're listening to an audiobook or a podcast." And you feel like you're doing something. Your
Totally.
mind's working. I love listening to music, but in the car now, the car seems like the best place for me to soak in some knowledge.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
A little blend. I just recently went to Vegas, and the drive was great. Just cutting kind of through the mountains and ravines, and I had a blend of like podcast and music on, and then just silence and phone calls. So it's like, yeah, it's all about what you make of that time and experience, and adjusting, I think, back to the LA notion. Because I think there's some trepidation within me about like, oh God, am I going to get to do one thing a day because of the time to get around and learning the landscape and everything. So
Sounds like it's going to be great.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I'm
What made you
planning so.
finally do the jump after all this time?
You know, it was looking at a lot of things that I just kind of mentioned, that I'm single again. I've got
That helps.
nothing holding me back.
Yeah.
No debts in my life, that it's like, dude, why not? And what do I have to lose? So here I go. Kind of the cool thing is that there's people who are like, oh, you should have made your move 10 years ago. It's too late now. I'm like, that's crap. Look at movies. Look at television. You see every age bracket. Mm-hmm. So no matter what age someone wants to start, there's always going to be a need for a different look, different age, different timing. So
Somehow people forget that they don't just need 18-year-olds.
or gorgeous, perfect 10 people. And that's not real anyway.
It's just the worst way to look at life is like, oh, well, you should have got on that when you were younger.
Right.
It's too late for you.
Yeah.
It's like, so what am I supposed to do? Just sit here and die? Like, what do
Right.
you want me to do?
Too late, sorry.
You want to just never try anything?
Good luck, bus.
What do you mean too late? Like you're a fit, able person.
Right. Yeah.
Why not go do it?
Yep.
It's very strange to me why people get into that mindset. You know, they always say it's like people projecting their own fears onto you. Mm-hmm. Or the fact that they're not doing what they want to do. So they are not encouraging you to do that because they're stuck in their own pattern of stuck.
Yes.
And pushing that onto you.
Yep. And, you know, my friend Sandra, the recent trip to Vegas was because she was in the hospital again for another surgery, stuff to do with her lungs. And I'm just, you know, so thankful that it was cancer-free and she's back up and in action. But for over 10 years now, she's dealt with severe asthma and allergies, and man, she's a trooper and like constantly has a beautiful, bright attitude. And she's such an inspiration to me of being a good person that I'm like, man, I am healthy. And that's such a daily oversight for us healthy people, forgetting that we get to get up, we get to walk. And now I sound like a motivational speaker or something, but it's like,
no, it's true.
The real honesty of that is I'm healthy. That's another huge reason to do so. Go.
Yeah.
Explore. See. Try.
It's like that sad thing when you wake up with a cold and like you can't breathe out of your nose and you're like, look at me, just not appreciating breathing out of my nose.
Right.
Or like that time my throat wasn't sore.
Right.
Like
Yes,
we
ma'am.
forget. So that's very cool. So you're coming at it from a place of gratitude.
Yeah. You know, that's a funny thing about this whole journey for me to San Diego is that, man, there were days I had to work on my attitude of riding the bus and being happy.
Yeah.
But it was filled with days of reflection, of sincere thankfulness and gratitude. And today, I'm just as like full of that same thankfulness and gratitude that I was then. You know, obviously having money is nice, and
it helps.
making moves and getting ahead. It's cool, but it's definitely not top of my list. It's just the connections I have with people and the memories made. The gratitude is in that journey, and I'm thankful for everything I've been through and everything I've got. Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the luck.
Thank you so
in
much.
LA. I think you're going to have a great time. If people want to get in touch with you or see your stuff, where can they find you?
My actor website is actorbrentroberts.com. And then my business website is mybrokerbrent.com. So actorBrentRoberts.com and mybrokerbrent.com. And I will be back and forth to San Diego a lot. I've got a nice listing in La Mesa right now that I need to get sold and other opportunities. So I'll be bouncing back and forth.
Nice. You'll be around.
Making good in both. Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brent.
Hey, thank you.
That's it for this one, you guys. Feel free to follow me on the socials at Courtney Diamond for updates, and head over to CourtneyDiamond.com to check out the blog. And if you love some video games, I am live streaming them on Twitch these days. Find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Courtney Diamond. And as always, if you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe and maybe leave a nice rating or comment on iTunes. I would very much appreciate it. Hope you guys all have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.